Inexpensive diesel heaters like these have become extremely popular with campers to heat their tents and small RVs. Some even use them to heat their small workshops.
In this video, we're going to show you the basics that you're going to need to know on how to operate one of these. Then we'll be testing it to see just how well it'll heat a small space in winter weather.
We've been using this upright version to heat our ground tent, and it does a fantastic job. We got this one to test in a similar small space, not a tent, but this.
Wait, the interior of this is about the same size as a 3-person tent. There's no insulation and it's drafty as hell. So don't go away. This test will be just like a tent.
From the factory, the Volkswagen's heater was marginal at best. After modifications we've done to our engine, now there's no heater at all.
Now we love driving this thing, but for 4 or 5 months out of the year in our part of the country, the weather can be uncomfortable or literally freezing.
So we're gonna give this a try.
In a nutshell, this is how they operate. Diesel fuel goes in this tank. The fuel then goes through this hose to the fuel pump. This is what controls how much heat you want by increasing or decreasing the amount of fuel pumped into the combustion chamber. Inside, there's a little piece that goes up and down that pumps the fuel. When it's running, you'll hear a click, click, click.
If you don't hear the clicking, something's wrong.
Inside the heat exchanger, the fuel will then mix with air coming in from the outside through this tube. Then combust, heating the fins, with the hot exhaust coming out this tube to the outside. The heat comes from pumping fresh air past those fins and into your living area.
And at no time do the hot combustion gases mix with the heated air.
All your settings and operating info is displayed here on the control panels. And this one even came with a remote control where you can turn it on and off and hotter and colder.
The brand we're using is Vevor. We bought this one from Home Depot. We did a video on it where we took it completely apart and tested it in our tent.
We put a link to it at the end of this video and down in the video description.
Vevor must have seen that video because they sent us this one to try out.
They're the same heater. This one happens to be packed vertically, this one horizontally.
So for transparency, we paid for this one and Vevor sent us this one to try out. We put links to the heater in the video description. These are affiliate links. If you do happen to buy one using the link, we get a few dollars. That will go right back into our channel, helping us to continue producing videos just like this one. There's also a discount code that you can use to get 5% off.
All right, let's get started putting this one in.
We took out the back seat in this thing, but I bet the heater would still fit even with the seat in it. We've carefully marked off where the exhaust tube has to exit down through the floor. Now I'll drill an 1¼ inch hole. To secure it to the floor, we're going to use these 1/4 inch bolts that came with the heater. Normally, we'd want this combustion air intake outside the cab as well. Eventually, if we find this heater works as well as we believe it will, we'll do just that. But for now, just one big hole through the floor. The heater comes with this tube to direct the heat, but it's not long enough to fit up to the front seat. So we're going to use this 3-inch clothes dryer type hose instead. If this indeed works to heat this thing, we may get a Y connection to run hoses under both seats, but for now, it's going under my seats. For our power source, we're hooking it directly up to our starter battery.
Now you could also run it off of a power unit like this. However, the energy used in the initial startup phase of the heater will sometimes mostly exceed the 10 amp restriction on this outlet on most units. Now if the power unit you have works with your heater, it's one of two things. Either you're very lucky or your unit doesn't have that built-in 10 amp protection. So if you try running it off of one of these power units and it doesn't work, that's your problem. I'm directing the exhaust in such a way that there's no chance that any of the fumes will get into the cabin. Now you need to have this exhaust pipe at least level, preferably pointed down a little bit because moisture will collect in it as it's burning and you need that moisture to drain out. There, that's not going anywhere. The unit comes with this little muffler that you could put at the end of the exhaust, and if you're in a tent with the heater next to the tent, this is absolutely necessary to keep the noise down. But in this thing, as you can see with the headers and everything, this isn't going to matter at all in this application. But if you do use it, make sure that you position this little weep hole right here downward. That way any kind of condensation that gets in here will drain out. So we're outside now. Gonna fill her up with some diesel. Gotta hate these new. Oh, there we go. I think. Fill it up with diesel. Now this is a 8 kilowatt unit. You can get them in a 5 or even a small 3 kilowatt, depending on what you're trying to heat up. All right, first I'm gonna try this remote and see if I can just turn it on with it. Do you hear it? It said start heating. I hope it doesn't talk too much. Hear that ticking? That's that fuel pump starting to pump fuel into it. Hopefully it'll start combusting here soon, and it's increasing a little bit. Okay, it's increasing quite a bit now. Let's see if there's anything coming out the exhaust. Yep, it's definitely fired up. That's pretty hot coming out of there. So you see, this isn't instant heat when you turn the thing on. It does take a while to warm up, but then again, so does a car. We are starting to get warm. The hose is starting to get warm.
It's a brisk 35 degrees outside, and the heater's been going for a few minutes. Let's see if it's warmed up any. Okay, so it's feeling warm in here. Probably the warmest bug I've ever been in. It's comfortable. I think I could do this.
The heater has gone through its initial warm-up phase, and now it's slowed down quite a bit. It's not making near as much noise as it was, so I think we're ready to go for a ride. Okay, now you can see why that little muffler on the heater wouldn't make a damn bit of difference in this thing. It's really nice and warm in here. It's a good 60 degrees already. And I think it warms up a little bit faster than an actual water-cooled vehicle. Engine's not too warm yet. We ran short on time yesterday to finish the video. Turns out that after running for about 15 minutes, the heater would shut itself off and show the error code E05, which is high temperature protection. Okay, this thing is throwing off an error code. We restarted it numerous times and still got the same results. So I went on Facebook, went to the group Chinese Diesel Parking Heater and Mods, I think it is.
And projects and mods.
And projects and mods.
That's a mouthful.
And I posted my question, my problem, and some pictures. It turns out that the outtake for the hot air was at a too sharp of a bend coming out of the heater, and that was kind of backing up the heat in the heater, so making it overheat. So since then I took and I put a stiffer hose on there and made a wider 90-degree bend. Now it's working perfect. Oh, and also that plastic dryer vent tube that we're hoping to use, it got way too hot to the point where the plastic tubing is gonna melt. So we have to run to Lowe's real quick right now and pick up aluminized or aluminum ductwork for a dryer, I think that'll work fine.
Now the heater works great.
Yeah, it's about 25 degrees out this morning. Just went for a little drive with it, and in fact, it works a little too good. I actually had to turn the heat down after a while. It got so hot in there. I'm thinking that the 8 kilowatt model that we have might be a little bit overkill for it. A 5 kilowatt unit would probably work just as fine.
For cooler weather months, this will be a normal fixture.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm going to go ahead and drill another hole to route that combustion air intake outside of the vehicle where it should be. And I might even consider running the ductwork through the factory original ductwork in the Volkswagen. That way we'd have defrosters too, if that would work. So we'll look at that. We do need to make it easy to get in and out, because in the summer months we'll be loading it up with camping gear, and yeah, we'll need to get it out of there for those times.
And we'll plug the holes so we don't...
And we'll plug holes, yeah. Put some plugs in the holes.
Yeah. We'll be doing a follow-up video on that very soon, so be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Thanks for watching.
Extremely popular with campers to hent
their tents.
Campers to hent. Campers to hent their teats. Combustible gas, We did a video on it where we took it completely